guys, some of you guessed it right. This is the brand new Eastonmade log splitter designed to go on the end of a mini skid steer. They call it the MS-324, and this is the very first one here at the Dude Ranch. So I'm sure a lot of the regular viewers and woodhounds out there saw the videos that Andrew put out on this thing a couple weeks ago, but this is his brand new MS-324 log splitter designed to go on the front end of a mini skid steer, and it sounds like they are planning on expanding upon the mounting plate to go on potentially excavators, standard, skid steer quick attach for a standard skid steer or your standard compact tractor. What this thing is basically an axis that they just cut off and welded up to a plate sideways. I had talked to Andrew about this a couple months ago. I said, hey, I know you make a machine, for the front end of a standard full-size skid steer, but I said, a lot of tree guys are moving to these smaller typed tracked and wheeled machines, as in the articulating loaders, and I said maybe you should consider designing one a little bit smaller to go on those machines. I think they would be pretty popular for tree guys, to quarter up big rounds and stuff. And next thing you know, he sent me some pictures of this thing, and they were off to the races. I think that is a huge testament to Andrew Easton and the way that he runs Eastonmade wood splitters. He really cares about his clientele. He really cares about his customers. He is open to feedback, and the proof is in the pudding right here. When I just sent him a quick little message like, hey, have you ever thought about this? And next thing you know, he's sending me, CAD design drawings and actual welded, mocked up versions of this thing. And to my surprise, here it is in the woodyard just a couple weeks later. So I think this thing is going to be awesome on the front of the Baumalight mini skid steer, just for really large rounds. Now, you guys know we have the Eastonmade 2228 with the box wedge, and that machine can basically go through any size wood. The one thing that you have to consider when using a box wedge of this size, or just a machine with a box wedge in general, is that all of your inner pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4, are all going to be very consistently sized, because there's a wedge, another wedge to correctly size the piece. But these outer pieces, i.e. right here and on the other immediate opposite side, there's no real telling how big those pieces are going to be, because it's just dictated by the actual size of the log. So in order to combat that, users, operators, generally you'll see people, including myself, flipping the piece and rotating it so that the skinny side is facing the machine, and it might be taller than it is wide, to achieve, consistently sized splits all the time. So that's where I think that this splitter is going to shine. As you can see here, we have some larger pieces. All of these are not, by any means huge. They're, probably in that 22 to 25 inch range, and these would all classify as pieces that you would have to rotate probably at least once in order to, achieve that consistently sized wood. My hope is that with this MS-324, I can go in while splitting or before splitting and either, split them in half or quarter them up to, one, make them easier to handle, to load onto the log lift itself, and then eliminate the need for having to rotate it once up in that splitter cradle. That way we could just push it through however many times is necessary on the box wedge, and we will always be getting that consistently sized wood. Okay guys, so we've got the forks off the mini skid steer, got this thing unstrapped. Really nice pallet it's on, that I'm definitely going to be saving. But this thing, just looking at it up close, is built super heavy duty, like all of the other Eastonmade products that I've ever seen. I mean, like, just the hoses on this are super thick. These are like, I think, 3/4 ID hoses, it looks like, and just, really robust. I think this end will serve as a really good point, the way that the wedge pushes out and this is fixed. This will serve as a really good point to maneuver and manipulate rounds, to get them in the right orientation into the machine. As you can see here, this is MS-324 So the very first one made. I think it looks like they have 2 different positions to where you can mount your hydraulic hoses depending on what, where the ports are on your machine. I actually think that this is set up well. It'll be pretty in line with the ports on the Baumalight there. So without much further talking, I'm going to get this thing attached up to the machine and we're going to try it out. All right, guys, the splitter is on there, and look who decided to show up as soon as I picked it up.
I heard we got a new toy. I had to come running.
What do you think?
I think it's pretty sweet. It's lacking a little bit of blue, but I think we can overlook that as long as it works well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always preferential to orange, but we got a little bit of blue there in the new Eastonmade logo. But speaking of logos, I think there's a big spot right here, and I don't know. Oh, maybe that might look really, really good right about there. What do you think?
I think it added just enough blue.
Yeah, just enough blue. Plus that handsome devil on there. All right. Now that it's been dude ranchified, let's try and get these lines on. You might have to hit the valve when I go to put the second one on. Damn, these hoses are no joke. Oh, there we go. All right, we're on. so far, that little splitter on that little machine impressed me so far, but I think we can really give it a test. So we have had this piece of oak here for quite some time, this big round. We intended on playing one of our favorite games, Stump, with it, but we found it's actually too big because it is so large in diameter. I mean, you can see, I can't even fit it all. Let me zoom out here. Like, I don't even know how big this thing is, but you actually can't reach across with the hammer to hit your opponent's nail. We tried, there's a couple nails in it, but it didn't work. So it's been sitting here. I think no better test than to cut this puppy in half or 3 pieces and try it out. What do you think?
I think doing that is going to show us what this machine can really do, and it'll show everybody out there why we intended to get this machine.
Right, and we will touch on that at the end of the video, kind of our final thoughts and everything on it. But we just want to try this out and see how it does. If I was smart, I would have cut it to 32 inches. Look at that.
How smart were you?
31 and a half. All right, so we're getting 2 pieces out of this. Well, 2 rounds. I think we're gonna get several hundred pieces out of this. I can't believe I got those cuts to kind of line up. The twins.
Twins, Basil, twins.
Betsy has escaped, and her sister is jealous. Hopefully she doesn't teach Gus and Louie how to escape. Well, all right. What do you think about this thing?
This thing is awesome. For me, it's busting up those big rounds.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would be fighting that and pushing that up onto the box wedge,
Right.
or just turning it away.
Yeah, I mean, so let's just preface this. Obviously, the first rounds that we were doing that were smaller, that stuff we could have put through the box wedge. As I explained, yeah, you get the two bigger pieces, coming off the outer sides. But all that stuff, to be honest, we could have just put through the box wedge without too much difficulty. That last one, however, we could have put it through, but the thing with the box wedge is once you split it on the bottom, then you have this huge, massive round that's now sitting on almost a flat face. So it is very difficult to then rotate it, to then be able to keep sending it through. So I think
with a round that size, you would have had to rotate it 4, 5, 6 times.
Oh yeah, so many times just to keep taking pieces off as if you were, chopping it with an axe. Now, was it the most difficult wood in the world to split? No, but that's not really the point of this thing. This thing isn't 37 tons like the 2228. Its tonnage is variable based on the gallons per minute that your machine puts out of its auxiliary. This machine puts out, I think, like 10.5 gallons per minute out of its auxiliary. So that then denotes the tonnage based on, the size of the cylinder. But this thing is designed to take that big wood and split it 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times until it's down and manageable. And it did that with ease.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, like you said, we would have otherwise turned that away if I hadn't cut down the tree myself. We just brought it back here as kind of like a memento, if you will. But now I have told my log supplier, my tree guy, he used to offer me big, it was straight, nice grain stuff, big trunks of trees, and we used to turn it away because we just didn't have a way to efficiently process it. Now, this is opening up all new doors for us because we'll be able to take bigger diameter rounds like the ones you just saw us bust up and break them down. And I mean, this stuff is really nice, straight grained oak. Like, this is gonna make beautiful firewood. Really nice stuff. I also think for guys that already have pieces of equipment, albeit a tractor, a mini skid steer, a full-size skid steer, an excavator, I think Eastonmade is planning on coming out with different mounting plates for this. And you have a boiler, this is all you need. You don't even need to deal with a log splitter because all of this stuff is primo boiler wood, and it doesn't take long to do it or much effort whatsoever,
All it's going to cost you is the cutting time.
The cutting time, and I mean the cost of the machine, it's the splitter itself, but these are pretty reasonably priced from what I saw on the website. I think they were like $2,500 or something. Don't quote me on that. All the pricing is on EastonmadeWoodSplitters.com. But I think the one thing that I might like to change or see in the future, and remember, this is the first one that Eastonmade has ever made, and you're seeing it here on Dude Ranch DIY. We are honored to have this. Thank you so much, Andrew, for sending it out. But just due to the nature of what this thing is, being on the front end of a machine, whatever type of machine it is, it's gonna get beat up. You saw I was using it to knock rounds around, to spin them, to push stuff out of the way. They get up under the tracks and stuff. So you're using the splitter itself as a splitter, but also to maneuver the rounds and move your pile and stuff like that. So I think it would be nice to kind of see maybe something, a little boxed in. You can already see here, we hit the edge of the cylinder a little bit on some rounds. So to be able to use both sides, if this side were protected, to be able to manipulate your rounds, I think ultimately would be a pretty big advantage instead of just being able to use that side, or the middle, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree.
The other thing about the shroud is right here, we're kind of tight.
Right.
When we were working on this side, the whole cylinder was sticking out and we were getting pretty close to the telephone pole structure, and that could very easily end your day
Right.
and ruin your week.
Yeah, I mean, although this thing is built like every other Eastonmade, very robust and very beefy, you know, a cylinder continuously banging into something, you know, is going to take its toll eventually, or the fittings or something like that. So I think just a simple shroud that maybe covers this up or something, or maybe with another point coming down, that way you can manipulate and kind of turn logs. That might be helpful, because it was super helpful having it on this side, and we found ourselves using it quite often. So, I mean, I am super happy with this thing.
The other two very minor things that I noticed was when we're splitting, the sharpened wedge doesn't go all the way up to the I-beam. There's just a tiny bit where it's flat and blunt. So you can't have that round pressed all the way up against the I-beam.
Right.
The other thing is the push plate, I guess, or the back plate.
Yeah,
where
the
blade,
backstop.
Yeah. That could be just a little bit longer. There's a couple pieces there where you can see I'm splitting with that black back plate rather than with the split wedge.
Right, or I think the wedge was pushing the round. You had just a little bit of meat on the wedge, and it was pushing the round past the back plate, because they're not exactly the same length or height, if you will, depending on how you look at it. But I think the visibility is awesome depending on what you're doing. You saw there, we kind of figured out you could come in with it horizontal, split it, sideways like this, leave the round in place on the ground, pick the whole machine up, invert it, so it was totally vertical, and then split the whole piece into fourths, or quarters if, it was small enough to do so, or just split, your top half again, which was pretty cool. So I think this is one of those things, and the last implement that I had that reminded me of this was my Wicked Grapple. Like, it's pretty cool up front, but the more you play with it, I think the more you're going to get to figure out little tricks, as with anything or any new tool.
The easier it is to run,
right?
More efficient you become.
Exactly. So this was our first day. So if you guys have an inverted log splitter or something, bear with us. I think this would be awesome on an excavator.
Yeah.
Really cool on an excavator, just because you could stay in one spot. You don't have to tear up your whole yard and reach around, with your arm, grab from a pile around, swing around to the splitter, split it a couple times. I think that would be pretty cool. But for our case here, this is going to do just fine on the Baumalight Mini Skid Steer. I think we could also see ourselves bringing this to some clients that always say, oh yeah, leave all the wood, I'll split it myself, and it's a huge trunk like this, and then 2 months later we get a call, oh, never mind, the wood's a little big, can you come and, get it out of here or split it? I think this allows me an opportunity to then say another service, hey, well, I know the wood is really big, how about I split it up into some more, manageable size pieces for you, and then you can split it with your, Home Depot log splitter or your, rental store log splitter or something like that, so it's a little bit more manageable. Because we get that all the time. People want to keep the wood from the trees that we cut down. Great, but they don't really have any efficient way of handling it. So I'm excited to add that to our repertoire of services. So I think that's going to about wrap it up. Again, thank you to the guys at Eastonmade and Andrew especially for taking my little bit of feedback, I guess, and turning it into a real thing that we have here at Dude Ranch. I really appreciate it. I know Chris is going to appreciate it, and we're going to have a lot of fun with this in the future. So as always, guys, if you like the video, give it a big thumbs up. Any questions, comment, or I did that wrong. If you like the video, give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, click that subscribe button down below. We'd really appreciate it. Any questions, comments, or feedback, I think I was excited because I want to hear your feedback on this thing. Drop a comment down in that comment section below. We're excited to hear what you guys have to say about it. But for now, I'm Jake.
And I'm Chris.
This is Dude Ranch DIY. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you here next time.
It's almost like we haven't done 500 videos like that.
Yeah, I know. Well, we haven't yet. I think we're like 480 something.
Oh,
that's why.
yeah.
That's why.